Good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from eturbonews.com in Honolulu and livestream.travel. Today, victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash in Addis Ababa from 2 years ago met in Washington, D.C. with Pete Buttigieg. He is the U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary under the Biden administration. And the discussion was a 1 hour discussion about the fallout of the Boeing MAX 8 crash in Ethiopia and before in Indonesia. This was not only an Ethiopian problem, it was definitely also an American problem. Americans and people in 35 countries died in this incident. The plane was manufactured by Boeing, the largest airline manufacturer in the world, based in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, safeguarding the safety of our aviation system in the United States, failed in supervising Boeing and coming up with regulations. So victims are still claiming it is not safe to fly on the Boeing 737. The economic question overshadows this question of safety, and the victim organization is also demanding for new leadership in FAA and to hold Boeing accountable. Listen to the activities going in front of the Boeing building today and understand what these victims are still going through after 2 years.
We just got another whistleblower contacting us this morning saying that Steve Dixon does he wants to make sure the legislation that we worked so hard last year to pass doesn't have any effect in the FAA. He's telling FAA employees that legislation, that's not going to have any effect here.
Dixon blames third world pilots and crew response for the deaths of my sister and 345 others. When I had a meeting with Ali Bahrami, Director of Safety in FAA, I asked him, knowing what you know now, what would you change? What would you have changed? What would you have done better to make sure these two crashes didn't happen? To make sure that my sister, who was going into public health, going to help people, didn't die. He told me we would have changed nothing. Even with hindsight, we did everything perfectly. This was not our fault. We did everything the best we possibly could have. Nothing would we have changed.
This man is working for Boeing inside the FAA. For 30 years, he's been stopping air directives. He's been saying everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh, there's a battery in the 787. Oh, it's encased in metal. Everything's fine, everything's fine. And it was by the grace of God that the people on that plane didn't die. They got off the plane and the plane caught on fire. And then Japan grounded the plane. This is what's happening. Boeing has its people inside the FAA, and the FAA is loving Boeing to death. by not fixing these things, by not paying attention to public safety, Boeing is going to kill more people and it's going to go down.
And this is not the engineers at Boeing. These
Not
are these
the engineers.
executives.
Engineers
These people are a
simple.
cancer. Engineers at Boeing, they're trying to make planes better. They're trying to make passengers safer. They're being squashed. These people are trying to fight for safety. They're being threatened of termination. There's a culture of stifling in Boeing, and it's not a culture of safety anymore. It's a culture. Calhoun and Muhlenberg's culture is a culture of profits. It's a culture of profit over passengers. It's a culture of money over engineering, and they're going to strip mine the Boeing Corporation. They're going to take this national champion, leader in safety with the best engineers in the world. They're going to ignore the engineers, and they're going to keep having people die. They're not going to make this plane safer, even though the engineers know how to, because they want to make more money.
In the short term. But of course, if people die, the whole thing is going to fall apart.
Muhlenberg doesn't care though. He's floated back to his home in Iowa on a golden parachute.
No, he's in Silicon Valley. He started a new corporation, $64 billion or something.
Calhoun is very excited about the new bonuses he will receive. These engineers, they're not being paid as they should, and they're not being listened to as they should. We support Boeing engineers. We support FAA safety engineers. We do not support the fat cat executives who are strip mining FAA and Boeing safety culture and killed my sister and 345 others. They want to do it again. They don't care if another plane goes down. They just want to extract as much profit as they can before another accident happens.
There was such confusion in the cockpit. Both pilots in both planes could not figure out what to do, but all the erroneous errors, noises, klaxons, shaking, they could not figure it out. And the thing that was wrong with the auto throttle was unarticulated. That's a terrible thing in aviation. You've got to be able to tell the pilot everything that's going on. So they didn't fix it. They didn't fix the confusion in the cockpit.
Instead of fixing it, Bahrami and Dixon have their racist excuse of blaming third world pilots for the error.
Low income country.
They are not taking responsibility. They're not taking responsibility for killing my sister, and they're blaming third world pilots, low income countries in a racist way, trying to diffuse blame and take advantage of people's assumptions about other countries and lack of pilot training. This is FAA's fault. This is Boeing's fault. And it's not the engineers.
It's the management.
It's the management.
And these managers, some of them are in this building normally, and not in COVID, and they go to Capitol Hill and they say, stop regulating us. We can regulate ourselves. We're so smart. And this is the result you get.
Thank you, guys. Just say your names for me.
Nadia, Nadia Milleron, Milleron, mother of Samia Stumo.
I'm Tor Stumo. Samia was my sister. My name is spelled Torstumo.
Thanks a lot.
Here, your Samia's picture is flipped. No one would want to be standing out here on a day to commemorate their daughter's death. It's unbelievable that 2 years later they still didn't fix the problems. The only thing that can be done is passengers have to avoid this plane. That's it. Passengers have to protect themselves and avoid this plane.
And airlines have to be ethical, and they have to let passengers know what plane they're getting. Renaming a plane, changing the advertising so that passengers don't know the death trap they're getting on is unbelievable. That's profits over passengers all the way. We hate these cameras. We hate having to stand here. We want to be home. We want to be crying. We want to be holding each other and trying to forget that my sister, who is the most kind person, most caring, full of life person I've ever met, I can't understand how she could be dead. I want to be home with my family, forgetting about it. But instead, I have to be reminded here. Mom has to be reminded. We have to just fight through our grief. We have to put it aside. We can't process our emotions, and we gotta fight for safety, because the engineers are not being listened to. The people with the knowledge are not being listened to. So it's up to us, people who are dying inside, to go in front of the cameras and put pressure on managers and executives who refuse to listen. We'll make them listen. And that's to honor my sister, and it's to honor the 345 others who died. We have to do this. Otherwise, what is the point? They just died for nothing? They died to make executives a few $100 million more? Is that why she died, my sister? I can't accept that.
To prevent another crash. That's the main thing. To try to get so other families don't have to go through this. And these executives can prevent another crash. They have the resources, they have the engineering, they have the manpower. They just make decisions. Oh no, we don't want to improve the alarm system in the cockpit. We don't want to bring it up to a 1982 standard. It's at some ancient standard from the 60s or 70s. That standard is outlawed now by the FAA. You can't have such a crazy, nonsensical alarm system in a plane now. But this is a new plane. They got a loophole. They got a loophole. They have this terrible alarm system, cause these crashes, and they could fix it. It's not that expensive to fix, and they just don't, because they want to eke every margin of money out of this situation. And then they say, oh, we've reviewed this over and over, and we've done everything possible. Well, there's very many obvious things that they didn't take care of.
They say this is the safest plane ever. More people have looked at this plane than any plane ever before. Well, we have been getting many emails from engineers. Boeing's former director of quality control emailed us. He said he's been with countless engineering colleagues. He's been emailing Boeing, trying to call the management, get in touch with them. He's been trying to give them advice because he thinks they are going down the wrong path. These engineers don't get replies, they don't get responses, they don't even get respect. The management says it's the safest plane. It's the safest plane. They just plug their ears, they don't listen to any criticisms, and they believe it's safe. They don't care.
I have to hold it from the bottom.
Out here on the 2-year anniversary of my sister's death. My sister, along with 156 others, crashed into the ground. The plane exploded. At first we thought my sister, maybe she had survived. Then we went to Ethiopia to recover her body. We found out that the biggest piece that they had found of our loved ones was a femur. And since then, knowledgeable engineers, and they've eked out every amount of profit they can by making an unsafe plane, by cutting corners, and by ignoring the engineers who told them it was not safe. We're here because when we went to meet with FAA's including my sister, how would you have done better? What could you have done better? And he said, we did everything perfectly. There's nothing we could have done better. We did it all great. We would have changed nothing. The management of
system in the cockpit that was a material cause of the crash has not been fixed. And there are a lot of problems with the plane that are being raised by engineers, and people aren't listening to them. So the engineers have reached out to families saying, maybe someone will listen to you. And so we're meeting with Secretary Pete Buttigieg, the new Secretary of the Department of Transportation, today.
Help us make these planes safer. No one is listening. No one is listening to us. It doesn't matter if you're the former Boeing Director of Quality Control, and it doesn't matter if you've been an aerospace engineer at FAA for over 30 years. They're not being listened to. Industry, these executives, they have taken to prevent a third crash. We're here to represent Boeing engineers and FAA engineers who are trying to make these planes safer and who are being lied to and who are being put upon and being threatened. We're here for them. We're not here for us. We're here to make my sister's death mean something. And we're here to make the engineers at Boeing and the FAA engineers listen to. We're here to make change. We're going to meet with
obvious inside this building who were materially contributing to the crash. What would you do if you had done that? You would make sure the plane was safe. I contact some of them and say, okay, the cockpit situation has not been solved. The alerts in the cockpit, you can't unground the plane. And they just give back phrases, it's safe, it's safe. They don't address the real problems that are still there. And we point out the real problems and they just ignore it. They just don't say anything about it. And the only reason could be that they don't want to spend the money to fix the problems.
I'm gonna flip this mic on you.
Beaches is all about families, and keeping your family safe is our #1 priority. That's why we created our Platinum Protocol of Cleanliness, setting a new standard of excellence in health and safety protocols to give you a worry-free destination wedding of a lifetime. Beaches was built on connection. Connecting with family and friends, celebrating old times, and creating new beginnings. And we know the love you have for your family and having them there for the most special time of your life is what's most important. At Beaches, you can still have that happily ever after with a fully customized destination wedding surrounded by the people who mean the most to you. You can feel safe saying "I do" in a lush tropical garden, or walking down a white sand aisle with a calm blue sea as your backdrop. Our wedding venues are found in wide open spaces, nature-made for celebrating your love. And while we've always led the industry in health and safety protocols, our resorts are even safer now than ever, giving you a wedding free of worries, surrounded by love. That's why we've reduced the capacity of our venues and put more physical distance between guests. Instead of tables for 8 at your reception, we'll seat only 6 guests per table. We've eliminated buffets and specialty food stations, so all food will be plated and served by Beach's staff wearing masks. We're even offering live stream service of your wedding ceremony, so your friends and family who can't travel right now can still share in your special day. Once the vows have been exchanged, the honeymoon of a lifetime begins. And we're taking every measure necessary to ensure your health and safety during your stay at Beaches. As part of the Sandals Resorts family, we've followed in their footsteps in setting a new standard of excellence with our Platinum Protocol of Cleanliness. Together with the extensive research from local ministries and health officials, the Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization, Beaches has instituted advanced hygiene practices across 18 key touchpoints. A triple check system that includes inspecting, cleaning, and sanitizing hard surfaces and common areas every 20 minutes. Adding auto-dispensing hand sanitizing stations throughout the resort. To ensure the utmost safety, Beaches will be using hospital-grade disinfectants, electrostatic sprayers for advanced cleaning, UV lighting equipment to inspect cleanliness, and air duct sanitization for each room before every guest's arrival. We've gone so far as to steam clean and sanitize carpeting and flooring prior to arrivals, and placing personal hand sanitizers in every guest room. For added safety, all staff members are required to wear protective face gear at all times. And from now on, guests can check in online at home, so they can bypass the front desk and go directly to their rooms. Stricter physical distancing protocols have also been put in place in every part of the resort. Chlorine and pH levels at all our pools and water parks are monitored every 2 hours, and we've taken added measures to protect the health and safety of your family. Our kids' camps facilities are sanitized before and after each use. And all of our professional nannies carry pocket-sized bottles of hand sanitizer. Our tween and teen hangouts, including the Xbox Play Lounge and Trenchtown, are sanitized before and after each use with hospital-grade disinfectants. In addition, all our spa facilities and sports equipment will be sanitized before and after use to protect the health and safety of our guests and their families. Both Sandals and Beaches are committed to providing strict compliance and implementation of these safety protocols. So much so that we've created a dedicated quality inspection team at each resort to make sure all safety measures are adhered to. We can't wait to help you make your dreams come true with a destination wedding at Beaches. And while you're focused on your new life together, surrounded by those you love the most, we'll take care of everything else.